Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Little bit. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Jai.
So I don't know if during this introduction, if he asked, is anybody here for the very, very first time? Nobody? Okay, great. So we'll ask all the tough questions.
One back here.
One, who's the one? Okay, very good, thanks.
I think we have to do
If you don't like to talk, don't worry.
little in the side.
Okay, stay at least for that.
Little,
Okay, so,
little
I was asked to
in the
speak a little bit from the
little up.
7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text number 28. And I'll share some thoughts and leave some time for questions.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's it.
Who's up there?
Close it.
Sanskrit or just English? What's there?
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit. So, you can join me if you'd like to. We'll do the Sanskrit just once and then we'll go to the English. Yesham. Together. Yesham Tvantvagatam Papam Jananam Punyakarmanam Te Tvantvamo Nirmukta Bhajate Mam Vilavata. Okay, translation. Persons who have acted piously in this life, in previous lives, and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Same translation? Great. So let's say it together. I'll say, you say. Persons who have acted piously
Persons who acted piously
in previous lives,
in previous lives
and in this life,
and in this life,
and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated,
and simple actions are completely eradicated,
are freed from the dualities of delusion,
are free from the duality of delusion,
and they engage themselves in my service with determination.
and engage themselves in the service of determination.
Okay, purport, which is a commentary by our founder Acharya, whose Murti form is sitting here, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Purport. Those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish, and deceitful, it's very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate, which was just mentioned in the previous verse. To explain the previous verse, that all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arising from desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions of karma, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, gradually, they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. That's the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees. For in the association of great devotees, one can be delivered from delusion. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to devotees. Mahat sevam dharamam ahor vimukte. But one who associates with materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest region of existence. Tamotvaram yoshitam sanghi sangam. All the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination. Read that last sentence again. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination. Krishna Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani So this is the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, nearing the end of the chapter, and the chapter is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. So this temple, this community here in Philadelphia, it's not, you can go, there are, just like these days, you see a lot of times there's like an unaffiliated church or whatever. Usually some kind of name like Beautiful River Creek Unaffiliated Church, not an ancient old church. Or there's many Hindu temples that are not necessarily connected with anything else. This temple, is important for us to realize, is one of many hundreds of temples connected to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So ours is a big international organization. Our headquarters are in East India, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared 500 years ago, one of our great acharyas, that we understand the incarnation, or he's Krishna came. So this is really, when we come here, we're actually part of a global effort. You're all globalists. It's not like that term in a certain context. But in a spiritual context, you're all globalists because we're participating in the global movement. So what's the purpose of that global movement? Described a little bit here. The purpose of that global movement is we want to transcend. That's the purpose of the society. We are transcendentalists. Just like there were the American transcendentalists. We are seeking to transcend, and as Prabhupada mentions here, we're actually seeking to become liberated. That's what we're about. Somebody said, what do you go to Hare Krishna temple for? One answer is to become transcendental, which begins with transformation. This is a place of transformation. It's not a place just to worship. It is a place of really good food that's offered to Krishna, but it's not only that. It's not an interesting place to hang out with your friends, although it is. It's not a place with like really cool artwork, which it is. It's not a place with just a place with wonderful deity worship, which it is. But it's also a place of transformation. That's why we should come here. Thank you. He's looking here, actually. Thanks. That's the ultimate benefit of coming here. It's a process of transformation and then transcending. So we can ask, well, transcending what? Described here somewhat in this purport. Transcending the problems of the world. That's what it's called, I would say. It's no small thing. It's like, what are you trying to transcend here? The problems of the world, all the problems of the world, which the wisdom books that we study, the Vedas, especially Bhagavad Gita we're reading here, and Bhagavatam, which is quoted in the purport, they explain that the problems of the world are not what most of us may think. Somebody says, well, you got any problems? Yeah, everybody's got problems. What are your problems? Well, I got a car payment next month and this stuff to make. Or I have a really expensive house in California and the mud keeps sliding and my neighbor's house just slid. Or in Atlantic City, I think recently, just my house, if somebody's $1.5 million house just slid into the Atlantic Ocean. Well, that's a problem, right? Or I got a problem, I don't get along with my boss. Right, that's a problem. Or different problems that we may have. The Bhagavatam and the Gita explain that actually the problems we face are much deeper than that. The problems include things like old age. Some of us that came to this movement in the 60s or 70s maybe thought we were never going to get old, but it catches up with everybody. So old age is there. Disease is there, whether we like it or not, right? We just all got through COVID. Probably every single person in this room knew somebody or knew somebody who knew somebody who passed away from COVID. I mean, we just went through an epidemic. It's like, that's not a nice thing. It's a very unpleasant thing. So describe four main problems: birth, death, old age, and disease. Those are the problems that we really, from a higher sense, are meant to try to transcend. But it's not just about solving problems. There are spiritual communities, traditions in the world that speak in terms of just achieving nirvana, achieving the closure of the material experience. We seek to end the material experience by opening up to the spiritual experience, what's described as the real experience, the eternal experience. In fact, it goes so far as to make this radical claim, Krishna does in the 16th chapter, that everything here that we're experiencing is just a reflection. I live in a place where there's just outside my door, 70 steps away, there's a small pond, which is quite nice with benches and trees and everything. And you sit there, and it's right out of Bhagavad Gita, you look on the water, and you see the reflection of the tree in the water, and it looks like a tree. It's got leaves, and it's got branches, and sometimes you can even see the birds seem to fly in and out of the tree, but it's upside down. It's upside down. The roots are up, the branches are down. And Krishna gives an exact analogy. He said that's what we're experiencing in the material world. We're seeing the reflection of the original reality. And we seek to transcend or be transformed and experience the reality. Where was the original come from? And Prabhupada would oftentimes give the example that, I'm trying to remember if I think I did once. I think one time, like, I made a bank deposit or something, the bank called me back and said that bill you gave it wasn't real money. It was fake. Anybody ever encountered money? It's not so common these days because the thieves these days, they do it all with software, right? They steal your money by messing up your software. Or they call you up and tell you that they're your cousin who got trapped in Argentina and they need you to send them some money. Right? Anybody get messages like that? Right? There's some, the real creative ones are like, I'm a prince in Africa and I have millions of dollars and I'd love to send it to the United States and I just need a friend to help me. So will you please send me your bank account and I'll send you $100,000 in exchange for you helping me. But actually what they're going to do is get your bank account and steal our money. And some people that are kind of either nice people or a little gullible, maybe both, they go along with that, thinking they're going to get some reward. But actually it's a counterfeit. It's not really a prince. It's not really your cousin Ned who got stranded in the airport. It's a counterfeit. So that's actually, even Plato, the great Greek philosopher, he gave a similar analogy. He gave what's called the analogy of the cave, very famous in Western philosophy. He said that we're all like people in a cave, there's a fire, and we're seeing our own reflection of others on the wall of the cave, and we're thinking that's reality, but actually it's just a shadow. And what you're really supposed to do is Greek philosophy. It's not Vedic, it's not Hare Krishna, it's not just ISKCON. Greek philosophy, we're looking at an illusion. What we really should do is turn around and figure out how to get out of the cave. He had that same teaching thousands of years ago in Greece. Maybe there was some interaction between India and that time, probably. Western historians aren't so clear on that. But either way, the same principles there. We should try to, don't be stuck in the cave. So sometimes I think sitting on the pond, I think, okay, it really looks like that's a nice tree and I can just reach out there and pick a fruit. What happens when I reach out and pick a fruit from the reflection of the tree on the water? What's going to happen? I'm going to get wet. I'm going to get wet. But I want the experience of the tree. I want the experience of the fruit of the tree. I want the experience of, Prabhupada writes in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, we want to be free. The soul wants to be free. We want to experience the unlimited pleasure. We are by nature looking for happiness, looking for pleasure. But the Acharyas explained that we're actually looking for it in the wrong place. So there's a lot of the trend within people's hearts these days. People aren't, I was even a little bit like, wow, I'll probably use the word religion. I just went to a conference. Very few people like the word religion these days. You tell people, hey, come and check out our religious experience. Like, you know. People are not interested in ritual, very much, generally. Not so much interested in ritual, not so much interested in liturgy. Definitely not interested in authority, generally. You know, it's like, what are people looking for these days? Experience. Why? Because the soul's looking for real experience. The soul's tired of the reflected tree on the water. Every time I reach, I get wet. Every time I try to enjoy and experience this world. So, the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita is that every one of us actually, within our hearts, we have an intense desire to experience something sublime. We have an intense desire to experience something that doesn't end with the temporariness of this world. We want to have a relationship that's not dependent upon somebody better looking or richer or more famous comes along and steals away the person that I thought I had a deep relationship with. And you know, we live in a country where divorce rate is 50%. A lot of people don't even get married these days because it's like, why even try to make a commitment? Because it's not going to last. What to speak of those small percentage of people, 50 or so, that do make a commitment, but then, whatever, the percentage, I don't know what the percentage do, but among those, 50% don't last because something goes wrong. Well, what goes wrong? Well, it didn't live up to our expectations. Why didn't it live up to our expectations? The Vaishnava Acharya says, because we're looking for a person who never gets old, never gets tired, never gains weight, perhaps. Always stays Nava-yogana. It's described, Krishna, the Supreme Person, he's Nava-yogana. He's eternally youthful. Yeah. And it's a little hard for many of us coming from different culture to put much energy into that or to put much faith into that because everything we've experienced here is different than it's all temporal. And people keep trying to just like these days, the concept of extreme sports is really popular. Why is extreme sports really popular? We can say, why is extreme sports popular? Because regular sports, that's boring, isn't it? It's like when I was young, you went skiing, okay, where I lived, okay? That kind of went on a style and became snowboarding, right? Because like skiing was like the old man skiing, right? It swings back and forth, right? But then snowboarding became kind of old hat because you need to do extreme sports. And then people used to like do a lot of hiking. Well, this isn't necessarily chronological. People do some hiking. But then after a while, like hiking is kind of boring. You know, we do it all the time. So let's like mountain climbing. Okay? After a while, mountain climbing gets a little boring. So we're going to do it without the ropes. Right? Which is like really cool until you hear the story about the guy who was like really famous because he climbed like 15 of the world's greatest peaks, but number 16 was a little too much for him, and they're flying his body back tomorrow, and his friends are all coming out saying, wow, he was really extreme, but unfortunately he didn't, number 16 didn't, but what a cool life he lived. That's sometimes the rationalization. But why are people looking for a deeper, more extreme experience? The great spiritual teachers in our lineage say because we are by constitution meant to experience unlimited pleasure, unlimited excitement, unlimited relationship. Just like this is an example, it's a little far out, but let's take a look, okay? Panel number 1, 2, 3, 4 down, okay? That's Krishna there with the Aghasura demon, like this big, huge snake. You see his mouth open there? Now, some people may say, well, that's an interesting story, or wow, isn't that a cute myth that these people all believe in? But just stepping back for a second, I mean, what's more extreme than walking into the mouth of a snake with this mouth is the size of a mountain and thinking it's going to be a cool experience? That's pretty extreme, isn't it? That's like more extreme than climbing like just a mountain. Like, I'm going to climb a mountain that's actually a snake. Wow, dude, that's like really intense, right? And the one next to it, that's Krishna dancing on the multi-headed snake of Kaliya demon. Okay, now like dancing is kind of cool. They used to have like in the 30s, there was a movie I saw as a kid called They Shoot Horses, don't they? Or something like about these marathon dances they would do during the time of the Depression. It was kind of popular. People would dance for like 30 hours, 40 hours, so they would just physically collapse to try to win a little bit of money. They were so desperate. And because it was kind of like a really intense experience. Krishna dances on a snake. That's cool. Somebody may say, well, that's an interesting myth, but it's a really cool myth, at least. But our understanding is, no, there actually is a reality, and we're actually meant to be part of that reality. That's our eternal identity, is to be part of that reality, to experience something beyond birth, old age, death, and disease, to experience sports in a very extreme way that you don't die from, and that actually satisfies the needs of the self, to experience relationships that doesn't go away, that doesn't break, but actually satisfies the self. So that's what's being described here. That's what Krishna consciousness is all about. That's why when Prabhupada in 1965 first came to the West, in 11 years, established 108 ISKCON centers and wrote dozens of books and started this whole kind of thing that's multiplied all around the world. He was telling people in the language of that day and age, okay, what was like some of the posters, stay high forever. Okay, in that area of the young people is all about getting high, different kind of intoxications, right? And of course, people that experienced it in that age, it's like you take the same whatever, you smoke, you this, that, whatever, the pills, this, that, shooting even, very dangerous. One day you're up, next day same experience is what? Down. One day you feel blissful, the next day you feel paranoid, right? And we can see it, we step back a little bit. There's so many organizations around the world these days, and sometimes as devotees, we also have to deal with these things, and that's okay, we get help. But there's societies to help you with alcohol addiction, drug addiction, sex addiction, gambling addiction, all these different things, right? Like I live in Maryland now, they just legalized, they've had a lot of them. They're legalizing gambling casinos, so like big signs on the billboards, on the roads, come and enjoy the gambling casino. Then right on the bottom it says, call 1-800-I-NEED-HELP if you have an addiction problem. Like we never would have had the addiction problem if we didn't walk in the first place. And for a percentage of people are just going to, and you read these stories, some man or woman gets addicted to it. Their 7-year-old kid or 3-year-old kids in the car, in the parking lot for like 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Sometimes you hear children even die. Why? Because the person's so addicted, they lose all sense of what's going on around them. And their life is really messed up. I come up family, in my family had some people addicted to alcohol. Really messes your life up. But still in America, and maybe other parts too, it's like, wow, I can't wait till I don't know if this law is 18 or 21 or whatever, I can't wait till I hit that age. Why? So I can legally drink. What for? Because I'm going to enjoy like those guys that are addicted, those people that have to go to Alcoholics and or choose to go to Alcoholics Anonymous every day. The people who go to Gambling Anonymous, or it's like a person thinks to themselves, well, maybe that analogy of the cave, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe these shadows that everybody's seeking, maybe they are shadows, but is there a reality? And that's where Krishna consciousness, Vaishnavism, other traditions also, but we have kind of a unique claim, which is that actually there's a reality and you can experience it, and you're meant to experience, you're meant to awaken it in this very lifetime. And a couple basics. Nobody is disqualified. Doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, what ethnicity you are, what gender you are, what your social status is, what religion you are, doesn't matter. Human body is helpful, but even animals can be benefited, but human beings is especially helpful. One has the opportunity to awaken this experience. And that's what we should do. Now the problem is we live in a culture that everybody's telling us, generally, seek something else. Isn't it again the billboards? You gotta go to this gambling casino. I've told this story before, maybe I told you. I remember when I was about 20, I was living in Colorado, and I was flying to LA actually. And as I was getting on the plane, there were like big signs, fly to LA. And they got off the plane in LA, that big sign, fly to Hawaii. And I was thinking, wow, I can't go to Hawaii, I should go to Hawaii. A few years later, I went to Hawaii. Guess what the sign said? Fly to Colorado. I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? You know? And the fact is, a lot of people, we all know it, they like, vacations are good, everybody needs rest and relaxation. You should spiritually and materially and physically regenerate yourself, and that's fine. But a lot of people are thinking, just like extreme sports is going to satisfy me, the vacation is going to satisfy me. So they save all their money, they buy it, or they fly to LA, and it's raining. Or, they rent a house that falls into the ocean. Or, it's a messy place here. Now, what's interesting is, as Vaishnavas, we're actually the greatest optimists, because we say, great, even you go and it's raining all day long, that's okay, because you can still have a good time, at least spiritually, you can practice your spiritual life. You can go out in the rain, and you can think about actually, just like here, it's been raining for 3 days, right? But the rain is a gift of nature, ultimately Krishna. Without the rain, we're finished. You get dried up. So we can see, whatever experience we have, we can see in a way that helps us connect with the divinity, with the absolute energy, the source of everything, with Krishna. And we can also learn from whatever experience we go through. So in that way, it's positive. No negative, seemingly negative thing in the ultimate sense. Sometimes it's very, very hard to figure out some of the greatest calamities in this world. But for now, at least, putting those aside, even what may appear to be negative experiences are good, because they can help us. They help give us some sense of, this reflection's not working. I need to look for something else. The Bhagavad Gita starts out, Arjuna's in this battle. The battle's about to begin. He's with Krishna. He's got relatives on both sides. He's outnumbered. His teacher's on the other side. His grandfather's on the other side. And he's saying, Krishna, I can't do this. It's a mess. In the midst of that, Krishna explains that, no, you can transcend even in the midst of this. You can make spiritual progress even in the midst of this. You can connect with the Supreme Absolute even in the midst of this. So here it's being described how in order to actually fully awaken that experience, everyone is open to come in contact with that experience. And once we've got a little inkling, we need to take the next steps. That's a very important message of Bhakti Yoga. It's just like a good university will say, and hopefully it's true, everyone is welcome to come and participate and be part of this university. And there's some requirements. You need to do your homework, and you got to go to class on time, and you got to read some stuff, and you got to listen to the professor. And if you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to. But if you want the benefit, you need to put a little energy in here. Right? I have a friend in Washington, D.C., college campus counselor. So a certain percentage of students, it's like, hey, you're smart enough, you can do this, but you have to put some energy into it. So bhakti, the process of bhakti, or sadhana bhakti, practicing bhakti, is based on this idea that we need to put a little energy into it. What you put the expression, right? What you put into it, you get out. Where they say garbage in, what comes out?
Good job.
With devotion in, devotion comes out. Put your heart into something, you may find there's a heart on the other side. Okay, that's the plan. So particularly, Prabhupada is describing here, one should lead a pious life. Okay? If persons who have acted piously, and through that process become free from the dualities, and then they can connect themselves with Krishna with determination. So what is that piety? What is that piety? It begins with what we call the 4 pillars of spirituality or religiosity, which I think everybody in the world would say that's pretty good, but most people say as long as I don't have to do it. The first one is be merciful. We should be merciful. We should interact with others in a merciful way. We should be kind. It's described that a yogi is one who understands the pains and pleasures of others as their own. They feel the pain of other people. So that's the principle. If we want to make spiritual advancement, we should be merciful. We should practice being truthful. What sometimes in this world seems to not pay off. I mean, I'm not going to make any political comments here, but you can go on and tell people whatever you want to about elections, and everybody knows it's not true, but still you get away with it. It seems, right? Or in so many ways it may seem that being not truthful helps, but actually there's karma. There's reactions to all these things we do. So if we want to be pious, we want to have a chance to open up our hearts, we should practice being truthful. And clean. We should practice being clean, inside and out, in our dealings, in our business dealings, in our interactions with others. These are like prerequisites. These are things that help us move forward. And also, austerity, or maybe a more modern word, we should learn to be disciplined. We should be disciplined in our lives, be able to say no to things that aren't good for us, say yes to things that are. And if we do that, as described here, then we can become elevated. Those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. Now, so those are there for everybody: truthfulness, cleanliness, mercifulness, and austerity. For those in our Vaishnava practice, in our Krishna conscious practice, we say if you want to take the next step, make those present in your whole life, but then take vows to do those things. Take vows. Not everybody's ready to take a vow, but many of us are. Many of us might want to aspire. We just had this course for potential disciples, and part of that is taking a vow. Specifically, it manifests mercy, truthfulness, austerity, and cleanliness. We say a few no's to support that. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. Now, we don't say everybody's got to do that. Anybody's welcome to come here. We go on the streets, we chant on the streets, we distribute books on the street, we have festivals on the street. We don't say, wait a minute, buddy, before you park and down at the Philadelphia Museum of Art and come and participate in our festival, if you had a cigarette the last year and a half, you can't come in here. We don't say that. Please don't smoke over here. Finish your cigarette, and then come on in. You finish it up right when you grab your cigarette. Whatever you want to do is fine. And if you want to go further, here's some things to go further. It's like you go see the doctor. The doctor says, your health's not so good. Yeah, doc, thanks. Is that what the doctor says? Your health's not so good? Bye. See you next year, hopefully. Is that what the doctor says? What's the doctor say? Are you smoking? Better quit. Are you drinking? Better quit. Even these days, how much meat are you eating? Right? And then are you sleeping regularly? You get too much pressure at work. All these different, are you exercising? Right? They want to help you get better. The doctor wants to help you get better. Everybody goes to see the doctor, but it's up to us if we want to apply. So the same way the Gita is telling us, hey, if you want to experience this higher reality, if you want to see through the temporariness of the material world, then follow some of these practices that will help us become liberated. And then in the second half of the purport, Prabhupada is emphasizing that to make further advancement, one should learn to serve spiritually advanced persons. So now we're going a little deeper. Everybody can come, everybody can take advantage of the different spiritual practices, the chanting, seeing the deities, eating sanctified foods, hearing the philosophy. Everybody can do that. If we become a little more serious and a little more interested, like, okay, we'll practice some of these principles, maybe give up some of these things. One becomes a little more serious, okay, good, great. Also, Make an endeavor to serve other spiritually active and spiritually advanced persons. Now, the natural reaction for most of us is, or at least maybe people that don't come here too often, you know, the tendency is like, serve others? Whoa, forget it. You know, I live in America, land of the free, the home of the brave. I don't need to serve anybody, right? But let's be honest, until April 15th comes around, right? I don't serve anybody. Now maybe you may say, no, I don't have to do anything April 15th. Why? Because you got an extension. You begged for an extension. Dear IRS officer, please give me an extension. And usually they'll do that, and then you pay. Isn't it? And you may say, no, I don't pay, I get a refund. Yeah, you get a refund because you overpaid. That's why you get a refund, most people. Sometimes there may be people in unique circumstances. So we're serving the government, isn't it? You go out here, the light turns red, you think, oh, I'm independent, I don't want to serve anybody, but just go through that red light. Do that a few times, see what happens. You'll be paying a major hospital bill if you live, right? So we all have to serve. Somebody said, anybody here voted, is green go, is red stop? Who voted for that? You're told to do that. And you better do it, you'll be in trouble. So I gotta serve the red light. I gotta serve the green light. I gotta serve my right. The boss says I need you here on Monday at 9 o'clock. No, boss, I like working in the home. I said, you want to work in this company, you're coming in here 3 days a week, right? There's a whole big thing out there, turmoil, right, about whether I should go to the office or not. But more or less it boils down to the boss says, go, you gotta go. Because why? Because you're independent? Sorry, crush anybody's concept of who you are. No, you're a servant, right? This pond I live in, we love animals, we love everything. On my pond, there's a lot of dog owners. And they're really good to the dog owners because they have 3 different stations with doggy bags, which is really good because the worst thing if you live around a pond or lake is like people don't pick up after their dogs. So everybody's out there walking their dogs, right? What do the dogs do when you take them for a walk? They poop, to use a nice form of the word. And what's the owner have to do if you're a conscientious person? You have the little plastic bag, you wait for Poopsie to poop. And as soon as Poopsie's done pooping, you bend down with a plastic bag. If you're a conscientious citizen, you pick it up, you tie it in a hole, maybe you put it in your pocket, and then you walk to the nearest can and you throw it. Now, people should clear out after their dogs. Dogs are great for a lot of different reasons. Krishna had pets, everything's fine, a lot of boys have pets. The point is, you're serving the dog, isn't it? Your Stan Prophet talks about big gentleman standing waiting to serve on his dog, take care of his dog. So we're servants. So the question is, and if you don't, maybe you say, okay, I don't have a dog, I don't have a boss, I'm here a lot of money for my grandfather, whatever, I don't do any of this stuff. Okay, what do you do when you get hungry, middle of the night? Get up, go to the refrigerator. The right stomach tells you what, you gotta serve your stomach. We're all servants. So the question the Bhagavad Gita presents to us, why not look how you can serve those things, or those persons, ultimately the divinity, ultimately Krishna, in such a way as to your benefit. Let me conscientiously serve. Let me not serve because I'm dragged into service of my boss or the taxes. I think we all have to do those things. But is there some service I can render? In the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains that service to Krishna, service to the devotees, as he uses this nice term, is the most congenial form of intimacy. Service is actually the most congenial form of intimacy. Why? Because when we awaken our spiritual consciousness, we realize Krishna is the all-attractive person. We're all attracted to beautiful things. Krishna's beauty puts everything here to shame. We're all attracted somewhere. You pick up the paper, it's all about famous people. Somebody left the copy of the Philadelphia Inquirer out here. If you didn't know, there's 6 people running for mayor. They got all their pictures on the front page. Why? It's just running for mayor. They're somewhat famous. Krishna's the most famous. We're attracted to that. I picked up the paper with these people. Interested in that. We're attracted to wealth. We're attracted to beauty. All these different qualities, they come from Krishna. So when we connect with Krishna, our desire for beauty, our desire to be in contact with someone who's famous, loveliness, it's all satisfied. And therefore it's described that we should seek that out. That's actually the best use of our human form of life, the best use of our Sunday night to come here, in our mornings and any other time we can to make an effort for that connection. And in this way, we're transformed. We want to be transformed according to whatever time we have, put a little bit of time into that, and reap the benefits of that. That's a few preliminary thoughts on this verse and Krishna consciousness. We have a few minutes. Any questions that you would like to ask? Or share some thoughts on something that has some meaning to you? You're smiling. Why are you smiling? They're supposed to ask a question. Who are you smiling at? Right there? Okay, are you supposed to smile back at her and say, no, I don't want to ask you a question. You ask a question. And then she looks back at you. Don't smile. You're getting his attention. Please, what are you doing this for? Thanks you both for coming. Yeah, was there a hand here? I thought, yeah, for
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You mentioned karma. In particular, I'm curious from a grihasta standpoint. Service, I don't think it's working.
I'll repeat the question. It's okay.
So from a grihasta standpoint, the service of one's family, the karma associated with the act of producing a family to begin, but then providing, say, those 4 regulative or religious principles.
So as a grihasta in particular, you mentioned karma.
Yes.
So I'm just going to repeat what you said. So the karma of having that family, develop the family, caring for the family.
And then providing that service to the family.
Providing for the family. Okay.
So at what point does a grihasta recognize that I've provided service to the family, but now I need to focus more on my spiritual advancement?
So the comment or the question is, so at what point, just repeating what you said, at what point does the grihasta realize I've provided so much service to the family, now I should serve spiritual? Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay, my response would be, why is it in opposition to each other? Bhakti means there's no opposition. You have to create a house, right? Husband and wife, sometimes she's making money, sometimes he is, sometimes they both are. You have the house, you might think in terms of this is service to my family, and you add the spiritual element. You have an altar in your home, where you have pictures of Krishna in your home, you invite friends who are spiritually minded to the home, you have kirtan in your home. You spiritualize your home, and they become both service to the family, becomes service to Krishna. You have a job, okay? How do you spiritualize your job? You can do this. It's not like, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm a nonsense, materialistic, karmic person, and now through Saturday, I can do something devotional. No, your whole job can be spiritualized. Simple terms, one, you should give a percentage of your income for spiritual purpose. That purifies everything. You can do things like, you got a break. I can break and try to read a little scripture. You know, you try to exemplify spiritual values in the office. You try to become, I don't want to act on envy. I don't want to act on anger. I don't want to act on selfishness. I want to set an example of a pious person who really cares for others. Sometimes devotees think, okay, I come to the temple or I do this, I chant or whatever I'm doing, and then I have to go out in the world with no connection. That's complete foolishness. Going out in the world is when you actually get to practice what you've been reading about. When you walk out the door, that's like, wow, this is cool. Now I get to practice my spiritual life. Because you walk out the door, the dog barks at you. And instead of kicking it, like some people might, you say, Hare Krishna. Right, and you get on the bus, and the bus driver's like a really nasty moves, instead of like becoming rah-rah yourself. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Nice to see you. Maybe you don't just say Hare Krishna, you didn't that more. Just good morning. Then he looks at you like, what's wrong with you? And after the 3rd or 4th week or month, he says, hey, I gotta ask you something. What are you all so happy for? What's wrong with you? Right? Well, you really want to know? Yeah, I want to know. Okay, says, well, give me one of those. Or before that, good morning, Mr. Smith. I brought some cookies my wife made for you. Really? And then cookies been offered to Krishna. So we have to use our intelligence. Arjuna's in the middle of a battlefield, and Krishna tells him he can do it for Krishna. So we can do the same thing. Okay. Yeah, don't think it's polarized. I come to the temple and here I'm supposed to transcend. We transcend with our family, with our job, with our house, with our friends. Okay. Other questions? How about this student and stuff? Thank you. That was a nice question. Yes.
Thank you for the class. The verse, one might misunderstand and think that you have to be very pure to practice this tradition. Because Krishna is saying you have to be cleansed of all your
No, he says you will become liberated when you become pure. You have to, wherever you are, you just start, you pick it up, you do what you can do. It's described elsewhere for every one step we take to Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards us. So you do a little something. There's so many stories. And Prabhupada exemplifying that in so many stories in the scripture. Dhruva Maharaj is a longer story, but he was the son of a king. His father, he felt offended him. So he went to the forest because he wanted to meditate, because he wanted a kingdom. He didn't want God, he wanted a kingdom. He wanted God to give him a kingdom. And then, short version, when God appeared in front of him, because he was impressed by his determination, he said, what do you want? He said, I want anything, I just want you. And I was looking for broken glass, and I found a diamond. So he wasn't pure, but he was trying. So we can try. I mean, sometimes, even attempting to be strict practitioners of Bhakti Yoga, sometimes you have, a rough day or a rough week or a rough month, which you think, I can chant one more round, I can eat a little more prasadam, I can do a little more service. Maybe maybe I have a lot of money, I like to give money to Krishna. Now I have nothing. What do? I'm useless. I give $1. Krishna, I may give you $1 million out of pride and false ego. Now I have nothing. All I have left is $1, but I'm giving it to him with devotion, because it's yours anyway. So there's no prerequisite for the practice. The prerequisite is purely awaken our spiritual consciousness. We have to go through a process to get purified. But wherever we are, just take advantage. And slowly, a story I heard recently, I'm not going to name who. The person who was a young person was reading books about vampires. And in these vampire books, they mention Krishna. And the vampire keeps killing people and then thinking about something like, I wonder what Krishna thinks about this or something. So that young person, because they like vampires, was reading the book about vampires and hearing about Krishna. At a certain point in time, said, who is this Krishna? So they came to Hare Krishna and said, what's going on? What's this all about? So through vampires, they came to Krishna. Okay? Yeah. A lot of people come to the temple. I don't like the philosophy. I don't know what the chant is about, but boy, the food's good. That's great. No problem. Keep coming. Eat more. We'd love to have you just keep eating. One day you're going to be like, well, this food's really good, so why is it so good? Etc. Some people love the chanting. Last story. I visited the Denver temple where I first became this kind of person a few years ago. There was a young woman there who was so enthusiastic with the chanting. And later on, I happened to sit next to her during the Sunday feast, and I told her, I said, wow, you're so enthusiastic. She said, I love chanting, kirtan's so good. I just kind of naturally said, yeah, because, the chanting of God's name is not different from God. She said, I don't believe in God. But you're dancing and chanting, you tell me I come every week, I love it, here's my favorite thing to do, and you don't believe in God. That's fine. I told her, that's great. That's good. Just keep chanting. No problem. So, take what you can take. Krishna's all attractive. Some people love the stories, they don't like the philosophy. Some people love the philosophy, they don't like the stories. Some people love the food, they don't like the chanting. Some people like the... If you keep going, you'll realize gradually it's all sweet. It's all wonderful. Okay? Thanks for the question. So, our local temple president has just arrived. He doesn't have a book, but he's got something there for me. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and thanks for coming here. Please continue coming here. Please bring your friends, bring your family, whatever you can. If you can't bring them here, take some food home, some prasadam home for them. Please at work be an example of spiritual values, because that's the way you can touch the hearts of others. And this way we can really help what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted, which was to give everybody in this human form of life the chance to actually become spiritually connected and happy. That's the goal of this movement. We want to see everybody happy and awaken in their relationship with Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.